So for today's video, I want to talk about the tarot deck that started it all. What's up guys? Welcome back to my channel if you've been here before, and if you haven't, welcome to my channel. So we all kind of start somewhere on our tarot journeys. We all have a first deck that we've explored tarot through a little bit and kind of introduced us to this great tool. So today I want to talk about which deck that was for me and kind of explain why I don't use it a whole lot anymore. So that deck for me, and some of you may already know this because I have talked about it before in previous videos, but that deck would be the Aquarian Tarot. So a little backstory of how I became acquainted with this deck. So I remember this deck always being at my grandma's house, and for the longest time I thought it was my grandma's, and I wasn't too interested in it at that time. To be completely honest, I was a bit younger. Tarot still kind of freaked me out a little bit. So I always, even though I would see it there, I always kind of stayed away from it. I mean, sometimes I would go and take it out and look at it, check it out, flip through the cards, but that was it. There was never really an interest in it at that time. And then a day came where I actually was a bit more interested in it, and I asked my grandma if I could take it home for a little while and kind of learn how to use it, and she let me. And then it's been at my house now for many years, and I always thought it was hers. And then I recently found out, probably when I really started my tarot journey in the beginning of this year, I found out that it was actually my dad's. He said that he's the one who purchased it back when he was either like a teenager or like early 20s. He purchased it because he had a little bit of an interest in tarot as well for a little while. And it was nice to find out that my dad, even if it was for a very limited amount of time, had a similar interest that I have. He stopped using it many years ago, and then it kind of became the first deck in my collection. So I used this deck to kind of get familiar with tarot, and when I first started using it, I had no idea what I was doing. I would try to follow along with the little paper guidebook that came with it, which I no longer have anymore because it fell behind something, I think my bookshelf or something, and I haven't been able to find it since. But yeah, I would try to follow along with the spreads that were in the book, and one of those spreads being the Celtic Cross, which is not a very beginner friendly spread in my opinion. And I just remember doing that and having absolutely no idea what I was doing and what I was reading, what the cards were trying to tell me. I had no clue. And looking back on it now, I feel like part of that was probably because I didn't have a real connection with this deck. I was just using it because it was the only deck that I had ever known at the time. But even from the start, when I started doing a bit more research and learning with it, right off the bat, I was not drawn to the imagery at all. And honestly, I think part of that was the reason why I stayed away from this deck when I was younger, because I did take a look at it way back when, and I was a little scared of the imagery in it. And to this day, I'm not afraid of the imagery, but because I know now who I am kind of as a reader, more so than I did before, I know what sort of imagery speaks to me and which kinds don't. So that's why I don't use this deck a whole lot now, because it's just not one that I really connect with. And once I realized that I was taking more of an interest in tarot, I hopped online and I looked at more of the decks that are out there. And obviously my collection has grown significantly since then. So I have a lot of more options for when I'm doing readings, and a lot more appealing options for me, if that makes sense. But I keep this deck because it was the very first tarot deck that I ever interacted with. It was the gateway pretty much to the world of tarot for me. So even though I don't have such a strong connection to it, I feel like I have to keep it. And it has a history with my family. Like I said, my dad purchased it, and then my grandma, who's no longer with me, she obviously took an interest in it for a little while because it was at her house. And I wish that was something that I talked with her more about. And we never talked about tarot. Honestly, I thought she wasn't really for it because she was a pretty religious person, but it was at her house for some reason. So I feel like she dabbled in it a little bit too at some point. So it has a connection, that kind of connection, more so with just me and my family, and then not so much a connection for me as a reader. But surprisingly, I felt kind of pulled to make this video today, and what gave me the idea was I was getting ready to do my general weekly messages over on Instagram, and I was standing in front of my cabinet with all of my decks trying to figure out which one I feel called to use for this week, and this one ended up jumping out at me, which has never happened. I've never felt the urge really since I started using other tarot decks to use this one. So I used this one for this week's general message, and then as I was doing the reading for that, I kind of felt pulled to make this video and kind of talk about my history a little bit with the first tarot deck that I ever interacted with. So it does hold a special place in my heart for sure. I don't have the urge to ever want to get rid of it really. So yeah, I'm definitely very thankful for the Aquarian Tarot, and I am happy to have it a part of my collection. So yeah, I kind of wanted to share with you guys about the first tarot deck that I ever used, the first deck that kind of opened my eyes to the world of tarot. So yeah, if you are a fellow tarot or even oracle card reader, what deck introduced you to card reading? Please share it in the comments because I would really, really love to know. So as always, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I shall see you in the next one.